She said it so casually. "Can you help me with the window?" But it landed in me like something heavier, something I wasn't prepared for. I don't know if it was the way she leaned against the frame when she called my name, or the way afternoon light slid across her hair, but for a second I forgot how to answer. I just nodded, probably too quickly, wiping my palms on my jeans before I stepped inside her living room. Her place was always quiet, like every sound had a tiptoe. She stood by the tall window, one hand pressed to the glass, the other hovering near the curtain like she'd been debating touching it. "It's stuck again," she said, trying to sound annoyed, but her voice had that soft edge she never fully hid. I moved beside her, close enough to feel the warmth radiating off her arm. She didn't step back. If anything, she angled slightly toward me. My fingers wrapped around the window latch, metal cold, her perfume warm, something faint and steady that made me breathe slower without thinking. "It's been getting worse," she added. She talked when she was uneasy. I never pointed it out. "Let me try," I murmured. My hand brushed hers when I reached for the frame. Just a slip of contact. But she pulled her hand in, lightly, like the touch surprised her too. Her breath hitched, not enough for anyone else to catch, but I was too tuned into her. The window groaned open with a sharp snap, and the curtain fluttered in the draft, brushing against her shoulder. A strand of her hair lifted with the breeze, and before I knew what I was doing, I reached out and smoothed it behind her ear. Slow, hesitant. I should have asked first. I didn't. She didn't pull away. In fact, she held still, too still, like any movement might break whatever this was. Her eyes met mine for a second that stretched longer than it had any right to. Something unspoken passed between us, or maybe I just wanted it to. "You didn't have to," she began, but her voice trailed off. "I know." She let out a quiet laugh, the kind people make when they're not sure how they're supposed to feel. Her hands moved, first at her sides, then crossing lightly over her stomach, then uncrossing again. Restless. It made her seem younger somehow, or maybe just more real. "You always show up at the right time," she said, not looking at me. "I think you just call it the right time," I answered, and instantly wished I'd said something smoother, something less revealing. Her lips tightened like she was holding back a smile. She stepped closer to the window, but it brought her closer to me too. The room felt warmer. Or maybe it was just me. "Thank you," she said, softer this time. "For the window?" I asked. "For everything else," she replied, and the way she said it made something tighten in my chest. Her fingers brushed my wrist, barely a touch, almost nothing, but it froze me in place. She didn't look at me when she did it, like she wasn't sure if she'd gone too far or not far enough. The curtain fluttered again, lifting gently and falling over her hand. She didn't move it. Neither did I. Then, right as the moment held, right as something was about to shift, a sudden sound echoed from the hallway. A door, closing. Hard. She straightened instantly. I did too. Her eyes flicked to the hallway, then back to me, wide with something she didn't say. And before she could speak, before I could ask, she whispered, "Don't move." Her words were still settling between us. It's getting harder to pretend I don't notice when a sharp buzz cut through the room. Not loud, but sudden enough to jolt both of us. Her phone. She flinched and pulled her hand from my shoulder like she'd been burned. I stepped back, giving her space, even though every part of me wanted the opposite. She reached for the phone on the counter. The screen lit her face in a pale glow. Her expression tightened, lips pressed together, jaw flexing. She didn't tell me who it was, but she didn't need to. Someone who shouldn't be calling this late. Someone who still had opinions about her life. "Everything okay?" I asked. She locked the screen, then placed the phone face down like it had said something rude. "My sister. She wants to know if I'm doing better." The air quotes came with a bitter twist of her mouth. I opened my mouth to say something, maybe to ask what better meant, when footsteps echoed outside the apartment door. Heavy, distinct, getting closer. She froze. "Is that?" I started. No, she's in Florida. It's just," the steps stopped right outside. She took a sharp breath. I instinctively stepped closer to her, not touching, just close enough to feel her pull toward me. Her hand brushed mine, a quick, nervous sweep, like she wasn't sure whether to hold on or hide it. The doorknob rattled. She stiffened. Oh God, a beat. Then the rattling stopped. The footsteps moved on. She sagged against the counter, catching herself with one hand. Maintenance, she said after a moment, though it sounded like a guess more than a certainty. They sometimes check the locks. I forgot they were doing that this week. But her fingers were still trembling slightly, and she wouldn't quite look at me. I stepped forward and touched her elbow, light, careful. Hey, you're all right. She nodded, though her breath was too uneven for the gesture to mean much. I didn't expect to feel. She cut herself off, shaking her head. Never mind. The words she didn't finish hovered between us. I wanted to ask. I didn't. Instead, she looked up at me, and for a second she didn't seem like someone older or wiser or unreachable. She looked like someone standing too close to a line she'd spent years avoiding. Maybe I did too. You should go, she whispered, but she didn't move back. You want me to? I don't know. Her hand lifted, almost touching my chest, stopping an inch away. Her fingertips flexed once, like she was fighting with herself. Then finally her palm pressed against my shirt. Soft, warm, intentional. I inhaled sharply. She did too. Our faces were too close now. One more breath, and we cross it. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then away, then back again, like she couldn't stop herself from checking. I can't, she whispered, but her hand tightened in my shirt. I know, I said, though I didn't step away. The air thickened, quiet, close, dangerous. We leaned in, barely, just enough for our foreheads to almost touch. Then a second buzz from her phone shattered the moment. She closed her eyes, exhaling shakily. But she didn't drop her hand from my chest. If anything, she held on tighter. The second buzz faded, but the damage was done. The moment we almost crossed, still hanging there, left a charge between us that was impossible to ignore. Her hand stayed on my chest, thumb brushing once lightly, like she didn't even notice she was doing it. I noticed. Maybe I should answer, she whispered. You're not moving. She swallowed, throat tightening. Because if I move, I'm afraid I'll do something stupid. I stepped closer, not touching her, just close enough that the air seemed to shift around us. Like what? Her breath caught. She didn't answer, but she didn't need to. I lifted my hand, slow enough for her to stop me, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. My fingers skimmed the side of her neck, warm, tense, alive. She shivered barely, but I felt it. Don't, she breathed. You want me to stop? She closed her eyes, jaw clenching. I want that. Her honesty hit deeper than any confession. She leaned into the cabinet behind her like the ground wasn't steady. I put a hand beside her on the counter, not blocking her in, just anchoring myself. Her face was inches from mine. You think I'm too young, I said softly. I know you are, she whispered, opening her eyes. And I know people will say things. And I know it's dangerous for both of us. And yet, she echoed, voice shaking, I hear your footsteps in the hallway, and I have to tell myself not to look at the door too quickly. Her words punched the air out of me. She blinked fast, like she regretted saying it out loud. Forget that. I shouldn't. I won't forget it. My voice came out low, closer to her ear than I meant. I think about you too much already. Her lips parted. She stared at me, stunned, like she wasn't sure whether to step closer or run. Don't say things you can't take back, she whispered. I don't want to take it back. That cracked something in her. She pressed a hand against my chest again, but this time it wasn't hesitation. It was need disguised as restraint. Her fingers curled into the fabric like she was holding me in place. This is crazy, she breathed. Maybe. You don't know what you're doing. Then tell me. She didn't. Instead, she leaned forward, so close her forehead brushed mine in a light, trembling graze. The faintest touch, but stole all my breath. Her voice was barely sound. I haven't felt this in years. My hand moved on its own, cupping the side of her face, thumb sweeping her cheekbone. She leaned into it. Only a fraction, but enough to break every rule she'd been clinging to. You're shaking, I murmured. So are you. We both knew the line between us wasn't a line anymore. It was a thread, thin, fraying, one pull away from snapping. She lifted her face, slowly, painfully slowly, her lips hovering close enough that I could feel the warmth of them, feel her breath mingle with mine. 1 inch, half an inch. Her hand slid up my chest, fingers brushing my throat. And just as she tilted her head, just as everything tipped, she whispered, barely audible, "Tell me to stop, or I won't. Tell me to stop, or I won't." Her whisper was still warm against my mouth when the apartment door clicked. Not loudly, not violently, just clicked, a soft sound that still cut through both of us like a blade. She jolted back, too fast, stumbling a little as her shoulder brushed the cabinet. Her breath came sharp, uneven. I instinctively reached for her arm, but she pulled her hand to her chest like contact might ignite something she couldn't control. A voice followed the click. "Aunt Laura," her niece. I felt her whole body tense, not just surprise, but fear. The kind that comes from being caught in something you weren't sure you should want in the first place. "In the kitchen," she called out, voice strained but trying not to show it. She smoothed her hair quickly, then touched her lips as if worried they gave something away. I stepped back, but too late. Footsteps crossed the living room. Her niece appeared in the doorway, frowning at the two of us. "Oh, you're here." She looked at me like there was something she was trying to place, something she almost recognized. "I was just helping with the window," I said too fast. Her niece raised an eyebrow. "The window." She glanced toward it, then back at us. "Right." The silence stretched. Mara pressed her fingers against the counter behind her, knuckles white. She didn't speak. Couldn't. Then her niece said something that turned the room colder than any draft. "So, is he the one you've been talking about?" Mara froze. My heart slammed against my ribs. "Talking about? Me?" Her niece didn't wait for an answer. She just shrugged. "I'll grab my charger. Don't stop your conversation on my account." She disappeared down the hallway, and the moment she was out of sight, Mara covered her face with one hand. "Oh God," she whispered. She wasn't supposed to. "I didn't think you talked about me?" I asked softly. She didn't respond right away. Her hand dropped, and her eyes met mine, wide, vulnerable, unguarded in a way she never let them be. "A little," she admitted. Not like this. Just that you help around. That you're kind. That you notice things other people miss. A beat. That it's nice having someone who listens." Something warm flickered in me. Something dangerously hopeful. "That's all." "No." Her voice cracked on the word. I moved closer, slow enough to give her room to stop me. She didn't move back. Her fingers brushed mine accidentally. Or maybe not. I thought telling her might help me make sense of why you get to me the way you do. The confession hit like a heartbeat between us. She swallowed hard, eyes dropping to my mouth for a single, betrayed moment. "And now she thinks she's not wrong," I said. Her breath hitched. "You don't know what you're saying." "You don't." She stepped past me, needing space, but when she brushed by, her hand skimmed my hip, a fleeting touch that felt anything but accidental. She stopped at the counter, gripping the edge like she needed something solid. "This is getting dangerous," she whispered. "For who?" "For me," she said. I moved behind her, close but not touching. "So what do you want to do?" She closed her eyes, chest rising and falling too quickly. Then she turned. Not all the way, just enough that we were face to face again, her lips inches from mine, her breath shaking. She stopped. Then, quiet, devastating, "I want something I shouldn't want." Before I could speak, she reached up, hesitant, trembling, and touched the side of my jaw. A choice. Her choice. And she didn't pull her hand away. Her fingers on my jaw were barely there, but I felt them everywhere, like a point of no return drawn in the warmth of her touch. She stood so close I could feel the faintest edge of her breath against my neck, uneven and pulled tight with everything she hadn't let happen for years. "You shouldn't let me do this," she whispered. "You already are." Her hand trembled, and I covered it with mine, steadying it. Not pulling her closer, just letting her know I wasn't going anywhere unless she told me to. Her eyes flicked up, searching my face like she was looking for a reason to turn away. "If we do this, everything changes. I don't get to pretend anymore." "Maybe pretending is what's hurting you," I murmured. She exhaled, a shaky sound that landed against my collarbone. I felt her lean in, just slightly, just enough that her forehead brushed my cheek. The kind of closeness people fall into only when they're too tired to hold themselves upright. I'm scared, she admitted. Of me? No, a pause. Of wanting something I can't control. Her thumb traced the line of my chin. A small, unconscious gesture that made her breath catch as soon as she realized what she was doing. She stepped closer, her chest rising and falling against mine in a slow, unsteady rhythm. You're 20, she whispered. You have your whole life ahead of you. I shouldn't be the thing you get tangled up in. I said nothing at first. Instead, I slid my hand behind her back, not pulling, just letting her lean against it if she wanted to. And she did, barely, enough that her body pressed lightly into mine. You're not something I tripped into, I said. I walked toward you. Every time. Her eyes softened, but her jaw clenched like she was trying not to believe it. I don't know how to let myself be wanted again. Then let me show you. Her breath stilled. For a moment, we just stood there, her fingers curled at my jaw, my hand warm against her back, the room too quiet, too charged, too full of everything we'd been trying not to say. Then she leaned in until our noses touched, barely. It wasn't a kiss. It wasn't safe, either. Her lips hovered just off mine, trembling with restraint. Say it, she whispered. Say you want this. Because if you don't, I'll walk away right now. I lifted my other hand and cupped her cheek gently, smoothing my thumb under her eye. Her breath faltered at the touch. I want you, I said quietly. Not because I'm young. Not because this is wrong. Because it's you. Her eyes closed, like the words hit a place no one had reached in a long time. Her forehead rested against mine, her hands sliding behind my neck, fingers threading tentatively through my hair. For the first time, she didn't pull back. This is real, isn't it? She whispered. It is. Something in her finally settled. Fear loosening, guilt thinning, the last wall between us giving way in a quiet exhale. She pressed her brow fully against mine, her hand firm on the back of my neck, drawing me in with a certainty she'd been terrified to feel. We're not going back from this, she breathed. Good, I whispered. And for the first time, she didn't argue. For a long moment, we didn't speak. We just stood there, foreheads resting together, our breaths falling into the same rhythm like our bodies had made a decision before our minds could catch up. She was the first to shift, not away, but closer. Her hand slid down from my neck to my shoulders, fingers curling just enough to hold on. Not from fear, not from hesitation, from relief. I don't know how to do this, she murmured, eyes searching mine. Not at this age. Not with someone who actually looks at me like I matter. You do matter, I said, brushing my thumb along the curve of her cheek. And not because of what you think you've lost. She let out a soft breath, almost a laugh, but the kind that carries years in it. You talk like you're older than me. Maybe I had to be. Maybe I needed someone younger to remind me what it feels like to want something again. Her voice broke a little at the end, and I stepped forward, closing the last inch between us. I didn't kiss her. I just wrapped my arms around her, slow and sure, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. Her head tucked under my chin, her hands resting at my back, her body melting into mine like she finally allowed herself to take up space in someone else's arms. We stayed like that, quiet, warm, steady. The kind of hug that feels like it's stitching something back together. After a while, she pulled back just enough to see my face. Her fingers slid down my arm until her hand found mine. She intertwined our fingers gently, studying the way our hands fit. This scares me, she admitted. It scares me too, but it feels right. Yes. She lifted my hand, brushing her thumb over my knuckles like she was memorizing them. People will talk. They always talk, I said, but they don't get to live this. A small smile finally tugged at her lips, tired, tender, real. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead to mine again, her hand squeezing mine in a slow, meaningful rhythm. What happens now? She whispered. We figure out, I said. Together. She closed her eyes and inhaled, like the word together was something she wasn't sure she deserved but desperately wanted anyway. When she opened them again, her expression had softened into something new. Not fear, not guilt, not hesitation. Trust. She reached up and touched my jaw again, the same touch that had nearly broken us both earlier. But this time, her hand was steady. "Come sit with me," she said. We moved to the couch, still holding hands. She didn't let go when we sat. Instead, she leaned into my side, her head resting lightly on my shoulder, her legs tucked close to mine. I wrapped my arm around her again, and she settled there like it was the most natural place in the world. A long silence followed, comfortable, warm, quiet in a way that felt earned. "You know," she said softly, tracing small circles on the back of my hand, "I don't feel older with you." "You don't feel older to me," I answered. She smiled again, a small, private smile, and pressed a gentle kiss to my shoulder. Not rushed, not dramatic, just real. We stayed there, wrapped around each other, the window still cracked open, the curtain drifting now and then like it had been part of our story from the start. For the first time that night, nothing felt forbidden. Just ours. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?